What's up, everybody? Jimmy Faluca is back with Frank and Mike. Fellas, how you doing?
Great. What's up?
All right. Frank, you came up with a concept earlier today that you wanted to discuss wrestlers that, if I'm reading this properly, that there was kind of a gray area with them, the performers that they were on the edge of whether they were good or bad, and if they could have been announcers or valets. Can you please elaborate on this thought before we get into it?
Well, because I've been going crazy watching Legends of Wrestling on the network.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite part of the whole thing.
Yeah, an episode that they should do is what I call Shades of Grey. Performers that have always teetered on good or bad. That you never really know, like, where they were coming from. Maybe they start trying to portray a good guy, but they came off bad, or got a mixed reaction or opposite reaction.
Well, if you want to talk about mixed reactions, how do you not mention John Cena? The guy's got a mixed reaction since he got on top.
Well, that's your guy. We'll talk about Cena. Yes.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that his popularity is at an all-time low. That it's been in years. And honestly, I don't know how much longer they're looking to hold this out without at least tweaking his character. I mean, let's be honest. The guy's going into a match with the guy that just broke The Undertaker. How the hell am I supposed to take this guy seriously when all he does is come out and cut bad comedy promos? I don't take him seriously. At least when Hulk Hogan was going up against the turncoat Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan looked like he had some fire in his friggin' eyes, and he was ready to rip Iron Sheik a new one. Because I watched all those old videos back, and let me tell you something. As you know, I am not a Hulk Hogan fan. But at the very least, when the time came for him to turn up the voltage, the son of a bitch knew when it was time. He embraced the dark side, and he became Hollywood Hulk Hogan, which to me, the first or second greatest villain of all time, right behind Mr. McMahon, who in my opinion is the greatest villain ever. What do you guys have to say about the whole John Cena not turning heel?
Well, it's not about turning heel. It's about how they portray what was the character, but he comes off in a different way.
How about you, Mike?
He can't. How's he going to turn? It's not turning heel. It's just his personality has to change. He's not going to have a gimmick.
I'm not saying for him. I'm not saying for him to go from The Undertaker to Eddie Guerrero, like a career change like that. But what I'm saying is the guy does need to change. He needs to evolve. The guy hasn't had an original. The guy hasn't had an original thought since 2006, and I've been sick of him since.
What do you want him to do, though? I mean, how did he change? What do you want him to do?
He's got to be edgier.
How do you make him edgier? Well, let's look at it. He's a square. Well, let's look at it. He's a guy they portray as a superhero, the face of the company. He's got all these positive messages coming out. Never give up, personal loyalty, respect, which is all supposed to be positive. He does the Make-A-Wish. He always says the right things. He always does the right things.
It's called you have him do the wrong thing. That's how. You have him do the wrong thing. What did you tell me earlier, Mike? Good guys do bad things, and they got to start showing him in a negative light. You can't put all your eggs in one basket forever. For those of us that have seen the movie Maverick with Mel Gibson, can't put all your eggs in one basket, and that's one of the things that's holding down a lot of talent. There's not it's not a glass ceiling. It's a John Cena ceiling. Because if they had any sense, Bray Wyatt would have beat him at Payback and would have won the feud. John Cena has not lost a single feud in his entire main event run except against Randy Orton. That's a problem.
But they have to protect him. He's there.
But that's the problem, Frank. If you still have to protect your face of the company after he's been on top for 10 years, you've picked the wrong guy. It's that simple. Tell me I'm wrong. That they got to protect the guy that's been on top for 10 years. They've shoved him down the fans' throat as far as they could go. You would think it was a porno movie. They protect him like he's fragile, and they think that if he loses matches, he's going to stop selling T-shirts to the kids. Now, let's be honest. Stone Cold Undertaker...
picked the wrong guy. John Cena?
Absolutely, they picked the wrong guy. Because if they did pick...
You tell me in the first 10 years what other guy picked.
Because that's what they have done. That's what they have done, Mike. You're not understanding.
If anyone was as good as him to do what he's doing, when it comes down to it, they'd be doing it.
He is. Let me counter your question with another question. What is the top role of a babyface? What is the top role of a babyface?
The older with the fans, I guess.
Excuse me?
The older with the fans.
To get the fans to like you. He has failed.
And he's supposed to defeat all the heroes and all the wrongdoers.
He's supposed to defeat all the wrongdoers, all while having the adulation of the fans. He has failed. That's not even an argument. He failed in his job. When you're a villain, the marketing value is the fans pay money to see me get my ass kicked. And when you're a hero, the fans pay money to see me kick somebody else's ass. And I got news for you. At SummerSlam next week, John Cena is going to get booed against the guy who broke the streak. Do you realize how bad that is? That they're going to cheer the guy that ended The Undertaker over John Cena. And Frank, what did you say on our last show? I think they'll cheer anyone over John Cena. And that's no good. He's their top hero. He should not get booed. And since he is, they should change him. Anyone else in history, when they're getting booed, they would do something about it. This guy, they do nothing. And it's frustrating as a wrestling fan because your intelligence is being insulted.
What if they're just all playing us and they really see, the company really sees him as a heel?
It doesn't matter what they... It doesn't really matter what they think, Frank and Mike. It's what the fans think. They know he's a bullshit artist.
Right, and WWE also knows that the more they shove him down our throats, the more we get aggravated and the more we watch.
But that's not how it's supposed. Well, now this is where I turn into Frank Barone. That's not how it's supposed to be. The fans are supposed to love the good guys and hate the bad guys. This guy is their ultimate hero, and the fans hate him. They announced that he's in his hometown when they're in Boston, and they look like they get egg on their face because he gets booed out of his hometown. That goes against everything that wrestling is supposed to be. I thought that Vince McMahon came out on national television in 1998 and said, "We personally think that you, the fans, are tired of having your intelligence insulted." What happened to that?
At the end of the day, the job is to incite a reaction, and you got.
But that's not how it's supposed to be, Frank. I think that's a cop out. As long as he's getting a reaction, it's a good thing. No, the villain is supposed to get booed. The hero is supposed to get cheered. Let's actually analyze it for what it is. This isn't nitpicking. This is actually talking about how the business is supposed to be run. The heroes are supposed to get cheered. The villains are supposed to get booed. And when the fans boo a hero and cheer a villain, things need to change. Perfect example: Bret Hart and Steve Austin from WrestleMania 13. They got tired of Bret Hart because he did the same shit for a few years. Stone Cold was the guy that they anointed, and guess what? He became the biggest star in the business. It's proof positive that when you listen to your audience, it works. Daniel Bryan's another example. The guy was booked like shit throughout the entire fall of 2013, but when Batista came back as the conquering hero, he got booed out of the building for a B-plus little troll. And at WrestleMania 30, they cheered like crazy when he beat the likes of Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista. All established stars that got beat by an indie wrestler. There's a reason for that. Because it's not that just that the fans love Daniel Bryan and that they hate John Cena. The fans are tired of the same old faces. It's that simple.
Well, now let's talk about another guy, CM Punk. When he first came out, what was his message? His message was being straight-laced. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. He lives a clean lifestyle, and all he lives for is to wrestling.
And he didn't get booed. But if
you notice, after a while, that started. It started irritating the fans. That this guy was straight-laced, and he was like,
no, but it was when he pushed it in their faces as a villain that they got tired of it. But when he was,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's the shades of gray, like.
But it was clear that he was being vindictive. That's the difference, Frank. It was clear he was being vindictive, and the announcers would call it. The babyface announcers would call, this guy's being a little much, and the heel announcer would do his job and say, no, he's doing the right thing. But I'll tell you, with the other guy we're talking about, Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, and even JBL, they got nothing but nice things to say about him. They don't do their jobs.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Well, performers who have that talent to order it and can switch at any given time just by their tone of voice,
Okay, what does that have to do with John Cena?
We're talking about CM Punk and other wrestlers like you mentioned, Bret Hart. He could be a hero, but if he starts talking a little down on the audience, or he starts talking about how great he is and how great Canada is.
Well, he's in the United States.
Yeah, and it starts. Guys that I'm talking about, guys that can switch at a moment's notice.
Well, the best of the best of the best, the best of the best could do both.
You know who's the best at changing from heel to face constantly?
Who?
The Big Show.
I think Big Show.
He could play the goofy guy, and then he could become the main angry Joe. He is heel and face more time like an imagine. But Mike, you talked about Ric Flair. What about him? I think he's the best at it.
Woo! Ric Flair could be the biggest. Ric Flair could be the biggest pain in the ass villain that you've ever seen because he would throw his lifestyle in your face. But when Flair was fighting for a cause, like he did with Vader at Starrcade when his career was on the line, and they were in Greensboro, oh my God! I mean, let me tell you something. Flair could go up against these big bad guys and make them look like they were Luthez. That's how good Flair was. I mean, and that's why when I hear, go ahead.
Greatest of all time.
Ric Flair, I second that notion.
What, as a wrestler? Everything. Total package.
I second the notion of the best the best champion of all time. I think Ric Flair is the greatest heavyweight champion in the history of wrestling, despite what Michael Cole said at Money in the Bank. I think Ric Flair is the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, number one. Now, the greatest, like I said, the greatest pro wrestler of all time that, without him, WWE would have folded, Steve Austin. Even Ric Flair himself admitted that Steve Austin's the biggest star he's ever been around. And I loved it. Yeah, but I loved it at the Hall of Fame when Ric Flair got on the microphone and he said, Steve Austin is the biggest star in the history of the WWE. I'm so tired of saying Hogan's the biggest. It ends tonight. Because Steve Austin, whether anyone likes it or not, eclipsed Hulk Hogan. He did.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
He did. If you want to go by business standpoint, he shattered his records. Shattered them.
There is no Steve Austin without Hulk Hogan. Of course.
No, of course not, because Hulk Hogan was in WCW playing politics, and Steve Austin mysteriously got fired.
It doesn't matter.
But I'll tell you what, when they went head-to-head with each other, when both guys were at their best, who won? Steve Austin. Hollywood Hulk Hogan was just as big a star as Hulk Hogan, because when Hollywood Hulk Hogan was on top, he was bringing in monster money for WCW. Hulk Hogan, another guy, that he was the beloved hero. When the guy was with the red and the yellow and he would tell the fans to take their vitamins, say their prayers, and train, people bought it because it was the 80s, it was the baby boomers. But I'll tell you something, when they got tired of it, like they did in the mid-90s, Hulk Hogan saw that. He dropped 3 leg drops on Randy Savage, and he joined Scott Hall and Kevin Nash in probably, in my opinion, the best heel turn of all time. Was when Hulk.
And then let's fast forward to WrestleMania when he fought The Rock. He did everything leading up to that to
be a villain.
The Rock.
But when they got to WrestleMania, the fans wanted Hogan.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about.
And I will admit that in the match with The Rock, which I did not find to be a great match. Everyone talks about how great it was. If you watch it move for move, it wasn't that great of a match. But it was the moments in the match that made it. When Hogan kicked out of the Rock bottom and hulked up and pointed the finger in The Rock's face, even I will admit, I got chills because...
Oh, yeah, the crowd was into that match from the beginning to the end.
That moment where he hulked up and pointed the finger in The Rock's face, I mean, how do you not get chills when you see stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, well, that's how can you not say that Hulk Hogan's not the biggest star ever?
Because Stone Cold is. That's why.
Yeah, but I'm saying for those 4 or 5 years that Stone Cold...
I'll put it to you this way. Hulk Hogan's Babe Ruth, but Steve Austin's Lou Gehrig. If he didn't get hurt... If Steve Austin didn't get hurt, he still would have wrestled a lot longer. It was that friggin' neck surgery that screwed him up. But I'll tell you something, though.
But if you're going to say that's Stone Cold, Lou Gehrig, and Hulk Hogan, and Babe Ruth, right? And anyone that knows baseball knows that Babe Ruth is the biggest star. Yeah, he's nobody's ever going to pass Babe Ruth.
No, nobody ever will. But you cannot deny the dominance that Lou Gehrig had when he was playing. That if he didn't get sick,
100%.
the friggin' Iron Horse. The Iron Horse was a player that only shows up once in a while. And I've done my research on the guy, and I'm a diehard Mets fan, but I will admit, the Iron Horse, if I could ever get my hands on his autograph, forget it. My dad would go nuts. That's my dad's favorite baseball player. The guy was an absolute animal when he was playing. The guy, if he didn't get sick, he would have set records that would not be met to this day. I could talk baseball all night.
See, but just like Babe Ruth, Hogan, when he did it, he did things that nobody ever did before.
Well, because you will always remember the first. Who's the first president of the United States?
Washington.
Right. Same thing with Hogan. It's the same principle. You'll always remember the first, and that's what makes Hogan special.
See, like Babe Ruth, no, he hit Hogan. Hogan is not the first wrestler.
No, but he was the first mainstream attraction wrestler. Let's remember that.
The first megastar, and that's why
yes, exactly.
He turned into being a megastar. What do you mean? He did it.
Him and Vince did it together. It wasn't just Hulkamania that made it, because Hulkamania was jacking up AWA when he was there. But
last time I checked, right? 1990, I was 4 years old.
That was the year I was born.
Listen to me. I was 4 years old. 1991, 5, right? Frank, you were younger. You remember stuff like this, right? So I don't remember at that age knowing who Vince McMahon was.
No, you don't, because you're fixated on the wrestlers. But if you go,
at the end of the day, I don't care about Vince McMahon. Hulk Hogan created it all. Let me tell you something. I'm a little older than you guys, not by much, but the difference between Hulk Hogan and everybody else is, from 1984 to about 1990, whenever he came into
the place exploded. Exploded. And it was a sell.
Like crazy.
And it was a sellout every. And it was a sellout every night.
84, 85, 86, 87. When this guy came in, everybody went nuts.
He's the Hulkster. I can't take anything away from him. And if you ever see him in Japan, the guy can wrestle.
And like you said, Jimmy, what is the hero supposed to do? Everybody's supposed to defeat all of the road.
And Hogan did that.
And everybody was behind him.
And you want to know something? Everyone was happy to be on the card with Hogan, because when they were on the same card as him, they knew it was a sellout.
And they made money. Anybody who worked with him made money. Yep.
Well, I can say this as a wrestling historian, because I do consider myself a wrestling historian. Without Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon together, mainstream wrestling would not be what it is today.
Well, I think we could say they both made it together.
Absolutely. I agree.
I think Vince McMahon found the right guy.
Like Ralph Cramden says, one hand washes the other hand, and both hands wash the face. I love the Honeymooners. I had to plug that.
Another guy we could talk about is The Rock, as being on the borderline of a face and a heel.
Yeah, Rocky Maivia. Rocky Maivia was real successful.
No, yeah, right. And he came out as a third generation guy. He was a all-American guy, and he got booed. And then he joins the Nation of Domination.
Becomes The Rock.
As The Rock, and he insults the crowd, insults the good guy wrestlers, and no matter who he did.
And then he became the coolest guy in the room.
You who could forget when he would start, people would start reciting his chants before he said it, and what would he say? This ain't sing along with the chant. And people went crazy. He would
exactly. And think of this another way. Think of this. This ties into a rivalry shtick. Both Steve Austin and The Rock started feuding with each other for the Intercontinental title. Then they went on to feud with each other for the World title. Those are the feuds that I think go down in history as some of the absolute best feuds ever.
At the end of the day, The Rock and Stone Cold Wild, the greatest rivalry.
Well, to me, the greatest rivalry.
Maybe behind McMahon and Steve Austin.
Yes, I think that Vince McMahon.
I mean, I'm talking about wrestler.
Oh, if you're talking about wrestler versus wrestler, you could go on forever. You got Steve Austin and The Rock would probably sit at the top. I'm gonna go with The Undertaker and Mankind. I mean, because come on, those guys.
And you could throw Bret Hart and HBK in there.
Absolutely, and plus the reality of it.
Hulk Hogan and Macho Man.
Well, the problem with that one is it was a one-sided rivalry, Mike. Macho Man never beat Hogan, which I think was ridiculous.
He didn't beat over WCW or something like that?
He never beat Hulk Hogan. Never.
No, in WWE, he never beat Hulk Hogan.
Where it mattered, he never beat him. He's never beaten Hulk for the title. He's never won a.
He was number two. He was the solid number two.
Which sucked because Macho Man was so much better than Hogan in the ring.
I think I heard that they didn't really lose too much money when Hulk Hogan left the first time. When Macho carried the belt.
Of course not. When Macho was the champion, he was a champion. And I love that WrestleMania when they had the tournament where Macho won the belt. I wish they would do that again. I think that would sell. If they had a tournament for the title and they anointed someone who they felt was right for it, it'd be great. I feel bad they only did that once. So technically, Jericho should check his history. Macho Man was the first undisputed champion. Technically speaking.
You're right, because Ric Flair brought the NWA title.
And I'll tell you something, fellas, and I'm moving the computer up so they can see it. I am very proud to say that I own the Master Series of the Winged Eagle belt that the Macho Man won. That's probably my most prized possession, that Winged Eagle belt, the real one. You know, not many people have it. I'm proud to say that I own one of the 500. And, Macho Man was the one that got me into wrestling. I don't know about you guys. Macho's the one that got me into it.
I have a Macho Man tattoo.
God bless you. I love it. I absolutely love it. Macho. I think it's a crying shame he hasn't been put in the Hall of Fame yet. But I think that day's coming. That day's coming. And let me tell you something. To a nicer guy, it couldn't happen. Macho Man got a lot of people into wrestling, myself and Mike included. Guys, we're gonna cut this segment down, and then Frank, Mike, and myself will be back with something very special in our fantasy booking segment. We'll be right back, guys.